does all that stuff. Good. Well, we'll give it another minute and then we'll get underway. Well, let's do this then, because I like, you know me, I like to start with some wins, even if this is a masterclass that I'm sharing. Has anyone got any wins they want to share this week? Who's got a win? Something that's gone good in their life for a change, because life always presents you with problems. Who's got a win they want to share? Anyone going to come out? Tim, yes.
I have recorded my advert and have ascended Mount webinar, and I feel like I've lost 14 stone.
I love it. How did you get, Tim? How did you reach it? Because you were struggling a little bit, right?
Yeah, I just listened to you and stopped thinking about what other people thought and just got on with it.
Nice. Love it. Awesome.
I did have a lot of help from my accountability guys as well, massive amount.
That's amazing. It's good to hear. Anyone else got a win they want to share? Who's got a win? I can only see some people. So Annika.
I have started this new consultant job and in HR, and they are really kind of not behind, but there's a lot to do, and everything I do, that's like, wow, that's so great. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I'll take all I can get. Congratulations.
That's really good. All feedback is just like, oh, bring it to me. Thank you.
Yeah, amazing. Snaps, Veronica. Good job. Well, you guys are all here on time, so let's do this. Actually, shit, I realize I need to stream in the Facebook group. Give me a second and then we will get underway. Telling everyone that they can join on the Facebook link, and then I don't even go live. I wouldn't be too happy. Let's see. Let's go. You were all kind of hoping that I had loads of tabs open, weren't you? So you could say, CJ, it's not just me that has loads of tabs open. I know you do it too. Strategic. So let's do this then. Welcome to this free training on how to end a self-sabotage. So like with all of my stuff, one of the things I like to do is get clear on language and definitions. And for some people, I find just getting clear on the language can actually create subtle shifts in their perspective. Now, let's first of all begin by defining some of this stuff. So self-sabotage, self meaning a person's essential being that distinguishes them from others. Sabotage meaning deliberately destroy, damage, or obstruct something or resist. Now, I'm curious, who here is deliberately, I mean intentionally, sabotaging themselves? Raise your hand if you're like, yeah, this is the day. I woke up today and I had this idea, but I'm ready to mess things up for myself. Good, we don't have any takers. So clearly not self-sabotage. Maybe it's something else. So let's just break this down. Destroy, put an end to the existence of by damaging or attacking it. And we've already got clear that you're not intentionally doing this, but you are unintentionally doing it in some way. Damage, physical harm. Is anyone experiencing physical harm caused to something in such a way as to impair its value, usefulness, or normal function? Deliberately, consciously, and intentionally on purpose. Obstruct, block an opening past road, be or get in the way of. So one of the big things I hear all the time is that people are getting in the way of themselves. Some people describe this as self-sabotage, but clearly we've got clear on the terminology here, and nobody here put their hand up and said, Jay, I'm intentionally messing things up for myself. I just want to go about my day and just fuck everything up for myself. I love doing that. Nobody is doing that. So what is self-sabotage? Well, first of all, people call it self-sabotage, but it's actually people living in accordance to their unidentified values and purposes, with fantasies, infatuations, are trying to be somebody they're not yet. So essentially, you have an idea of where you want to go. You create an idea, you have a vision, a goal of some kind. And what's happening is you want to be that person now in your mind, but there's a part of your mind that is stopping you from actually achieving that. In other words, you're getting in your own way. And one of the big things I see is that people have an infatuation with things happening fast, things happening easy. And part of this comes from our world of being told you can you can make £1 million in a day. You can be super focused. You need to get 10x focus. If you think about social media, we are constantly being conditioned that we need to be a certain way. And if you think about what an infatuation is, really, an infatuation is like an obsession over something that I need to get it. I've got to have it. And what happens is when we have an infatuation with something and we are obsessed with it being a certain way, i.e. easy or fast or it happening now, then what we create is an imbalanced perspective. About 8 years ago, I started my first ever business. I remember I was leaving the Air Force at the time, and my friend who introduced me to the business model said, you know what, Jay, you can make thousands in a day. And I'm thinking, I barely make thousands in a month. So making 1,000 a day sounds incredible. And he showed me all these pictures of these people sat on the beach. It was raining money. People were stood next to their Ferraris, which I later found out were rented, and their Porsches and their private planes. And what happened is I created this imbalance in my perspective, this idea that it has to be this way because this is what I've seen on Facebook. This is what I've seen in the ads. And the more I subscribed to that, the more I followed people doing that, the more I believed that was the thing. But guess what happened? Over the next few years, I got my ass absolutely kicked because nobody told me, and I definitely didn't research this, the failure rate in business. I definitely didn't look how hard it was actually going to be to build a business. I never realized the transformational journey I'd have to go on myself, that I'd have to deal with doubting family members telling me that I'm losing my mind, that maybe I should go and see a doctor. I never thought I was going to do that. I never thought I'd have to deal with losing the respect of my now wife, who lost respect for me because I said I was going to do something and just wasn't doing it. Or I started things and didn't follow through. No one ever told me that. No one, that wasn't in the ad. But what I subscribed to is what I wanted to say. And that was the infatuation with it being some other way. When the reality was there is always an upside and there is always a downside. So self-sabotage, people call it self-sabotage, but it's actually just people living in according to their unidentified values or purpose, with fantasies, infatuations of trying to be somebody or something they're not yet. That's not to say you cannot be that, but you have an idea, a concept of where you want to be. And because you're not there, then ultimately you label it as I'm getting in my way or I'm self-sabotaging. So how does this happen? I tell you what, let's do this. Just put in the chat for me. I'll give you a couple of clues there. Just put in the chat for me how you do your self-sabotage. What's your version of getting in your own way? How do you do it? Just go ahead and put that in the chat for me. Do you procrastinate? Do you go into overwhelm? Do you overcommit yourself? Do you throw your hands up in the air and say, I'm just so busy all the time? Do you micromanage? Do you try and control everything to the point that you're stressed out to high heaven and now you have no work-life balance because you need to do everything? Do you fail to ask for help? What's the way in which you do it? Do you avoid actually building some kind of team out? What's your methodology? Let's see what we've got in here. Micromanaging. Think too much about the future. Perfectionism is another. Worst case scenario thinking. Procrastinate and overcommit. I guess I have too high expectations and get overwhelmed. Comparison, unrealistic expectations. Yes, we have a bunch of them. So here is some more about how it happens. You see the finish line, but you stop short. You get a certain percentage of the way through, and then you find there's another ad telling you that you can do it faster. And you jump to the next thing, the next business model, the next marketing strategy, the next training course, whatever it is. You feel the urge to make the call, but then you just don't. You think you want to do it, but then you're just like, I don't feel like it now. You procrastinate, you find reasons to do other things. In other words, you're distracted. You have multiple tabs open, multiple apps. Your life is chaos. You have phones, tablets that are dinging left, right, and center. I remember I was working with one of my clients, and he said to me, Jay, I don't get it. I'm distracted. I'm so distracted. And all I heard was ding, ding, ding. I was like, well, first of all, it's obvious where your problem is. All of those notifications that you've got turned on, that's obviously distracting you. And there's a study, they found that for every time there's a distraction of some kind from your core task, it takes about 15 to 25 minutes for you to get back into a flow state and refocus. You do things you know you shouldn't be doing. Anyone do that? They know they shouldn't be watching Netflix. They know they should be doing the other thing. They know they shouldn't be making 15 cups of tea or coffee in a day or eating lots of food, but they're still doing it. And we see that at this time of year in particular, more than ever. Trying to make everything perfect before you launch or do a thing. Anyone got that one? Trying to be perfect, trying to get it right. Waiting for perfectionism, waiting for certainty that this is going to work. And the bad news is you're making a decision based on your past, not what is your reality. Nothing ever goes according to plan, basically, and you need to be flexible in your approach. Blaming someone else as the reason why your goal isn't achieved. It's easy to blame someone else than it is to actually acknowledge that we didn't do what was necessary. I remember my coach said to me, he turned around and said to me, I went to him, I was like, you know what? I'm pissed off with marketers. I hate marketing. I don't enjoy it at all. I just don't want to do it. And I've got this real problem with it. I'm really angry about this bloody industry because I've been in it long enough. And I just hate the manipulation of it. And I was going off on one. He said, okay, so how are you doing in your results? And I shared my results with him, and he said, so where do you want to be? And I told him, and he said, so is it that you're really pissed off at the marketers playing the game, or is it just you being pissed off the fact that you haven't been able to create the result you really want? And I was like, okay, I'm fighting it. There's a bit of resistance there. He said, okay, if I paid you £1 million, if you were making £1 million right now for doing the exact things you're doing in marketing, would you have a problem with marketing? Nope. I'd play the game. So very rarely is it ever the game we're playing. It's more about what we're doing or what we're not doing. It's easy to blame something else than to be responsible for it. There are always reasons for coming up short. There's always a reason. I'm sure you may or may not be one of those people, but there's always a reason. There's always a justification, always a story that we might tell ourselves. And you might have your own version of this, which might be like, I don't have time. Or it was just wasn't what I was passionate about. Just wasn't the right program for me. Or it's something to do with my niche or industry, or that my audience can't afford it. Maybe it's that. Maybe that's the problem. Get a few laughs here, so I'm guessing some of this is ringing true. Logical reasons why it's not done, or why we're not there yet, or I couldn't make it happen, are frequent. So you get the idea. There's a lot of stuff that we do in order to justify why we're not doing the thing that we know we need to be doing. So a reason, justification, or story why it's happening normally starts with but or because. But or because. Look, I haven't done the webinar. I haven't created the ads because I was gonna do it. But my kids came in, and then I had to deal with them, and I got completely distracted. I know people are going to talk shit when they start using the word but and because. Anything that normally follows those words is normally shit, i.e. a story, a justification, an excuse, or a reason. And if you've ever seen me coach before, as soon as people start going into that, I'm like, whoa, stop you right there. There's the story. That's the story you're telling yourself about why you haven't been able to achieve it, when the reality is you're not being honest with yourself. You're in denial. So why does it happen? This I learned from a good friend of mine, Elena, and it just makes so much sense to me. You are always winning the game you're playing. Now, what does that mean? You're actually right on purpose. It's just a purpose that isn't serving your goals. A purpose that isn't designed or clear. You're operating based on a hierarchy of purposes, priorities, or values that conflicts with the priorities or values that you think you should have. In other words, you're in conflict. You are in conflict with your mind and its unconscious programming. And the only reason you do this is because you get some kind of payoff. And there's a few payoffs there. So go ahead and put in the chat if any of these resonate with you. Is there a payoff that you get for indirectly messing up what you set your mind to, the goal, the idea, the vision that you create for yourself? Just put in the chat for me, out of that list, is there a payoff there that you can go, yeah, I'm kind of trying to control it, trying to make sure it's safe? Or is it I just want to avoid pain? I want to avoid rejection, failure. I want to avoid looking bad. I want to be right about this thing that doesn't work. One of the things I say in my Unstoppable Entrepreneur program is the number one rule of becoming unstoppable is fully intend to win. Fully intend to win. That's the full intention. Not fully intend, not having a counter intention, which is fully intend to lose. Some of you want to be right about things that don't work. And on some level, you want to validate that because it makes you feel better about yourself. And it's kind of a, see, I told you so. I told you were right. Nothing works. And I would always challenge them and say, well, have you tried everything? Nothing works. You've been and tried every single thing and done it perfectly to the T, according to what the coach mentor program told you. Everything? No. I want to do what's right. Being rejected and feeling pain. Thank you for your honesty, by the way. Staying safe and avoiding failure. I do easy things instead of scary ones. Yeah, that's perfectly normal. The mind wants to move away from pain and towards pleasure. Now, one of the things that I tend to do with one of my one-to-one clients, has anyone here ever heard of the term motivational maps besides me talking about it? You ever heard of that? So motivational maps, the idea is we all have a set of values. All of you here, you all have a set of values, and each of those values has a specific priority. A value is an emotional state that's important to you for you to feel. So you will see here's just some examples of categories, and I'll quickly run through these. You don't need to know these inside out. It's just purely for illustration that if you have a certain set of values in your life, things that are important to you, and they have a certain priority, this could explain why you do this thing called self-sabotage. So let me just break these down really quickly. So we have growth motivators. Growth motivators are the creator, the spirit, the searcher. So the creator seeks innovation, identification with new, expressing creative potential. So the creator is someone who normally hates routine. They often want to say, hey, but I'm creative, so I have all of these things going on at once. And none of this is right or wrong. So they want to be creative. They want to be big picture. They often like to solve problems, sometimes big problems in the world. The spirit seeks freedom, independence, likes making decisions on their own. They hate to be micromanaged. They're not always very good in a team. They prefer to be independent. You see a lot of people in sales who are high spirit because they often have jobs where they're on the road, where they can drive up and down the country and go and visit people, and there's a certain freedom to it. These people are often risk takers as well. Then we have the searcher. They seek meaning, making a difference, provide worthwhile things. They like to make a difference in the world. You often see this in coaches, consultants. You see this a lot in entrepreneurs, but you also see it a lot in charities. It's one of the reasons that if you had a high searcher as one of your values, as one of your key, we call them motivators, because your motivation comes from the things that are important to you. So you make decisions from that place about what you're going to do. If you're a high searcher and you are a coach, you might find it difficult to actually charge people for what you do. Or you might just find yourself just always wanting to give your stuff away. You're just like, I just want to give, I just want to help people. Well, if that's the case, you might be best going and getting a job in a charity, because you'll make more money than you will in business. Now, this is not to say again that any of these are wrong. This is just to say that this is your structure. If this is your structure, it's about flexing and finding opportunities, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Then we have the achievement motivators. We have the director, seeks power, influence, control, people, resources. They're the type of people who like to make decisions. They're not massive fan of being told what to do. They're normally the CEOs or directors or high up in a company. This is the director role. The builder seeks money, material satisfactions, above average living. They're often misunderstood because people think, oh, they're all about the money, those builders. And if you have a team, you need builders in your sales team. High builders are goal orientated. If you're not setting goals, they won't be motivated, especially if it's money orientated. If you've got a builder in your team, they don't want material things to always show off as people think. They actually want material things so that it's kind of like a thing that they prove to themselves. It's kind of like, and I did that. Like one of my top clients, he's got a really high builder on his list, and he loves achieving. He loves to achieve things for himself. Like he recently bought a house. It feels really good to him, not because he wants to show off this huge house, but just because he did it and he made that happen. So these people are all about above average living, often goals orientated. Then there's the expert seeks knowledge, mastery, specialization. They love learning. If there's anything they can learn, a book, a course, some of you probably recognize this one. This is why they're probably on training courses like this or training calls like this. They want to learn, they want to grow, they want to get better at what they do. I have a high expert. My expert is actually number 3 on my motivators. And one of the reasons I have a high expert is because I'm hungry to learn about you. I'm hungry to learn about why you do what you do, what's going on in your mind, how you think, what's driving your behavior, because ultimately that serves my higher purpose and my higher value of being a searcher. Does that make sense? Because then I can make a bigger difference in your lives and in other people's lives as a result. Then we have the relationship motivators, defender. Some of this may resonate with you. Seeks security, predictability, love stability. Did I say that twice? Stability. So they love the security of a role. If they're in business, they make decisions to essentially increase their security. They do not like massive change. They do not like massive change. If there's lots of change going on, they're just like, no, like this is too much. This is uncertainty. I want certainty. And so they're always looking for that level of certainty. Then we have the friend. By the way, the defender and the creator don't always get on in a team, because the creator always wants to change everything and the defender never wants to change anything unless it increases their level of security. So they won't want to spend as much money necessarily unless it's going to lead to a high level of security. So friends, seeks belonging, friendship, fulfilling relationships. Their work is all about people. They just love to be around people. They're the type of people that know your sons and daughters' names. They know when their birthdays are, and they know loads about you. They're just great listeners. They want to understand you, and they often are motivated by being in those environments. The star seeks recognition, respect, and social esteem. This person just loves to be told I'm doing a good job all of the time. Employee of the month, recognition, awards, certificates. This is all about the star. I'm curious, go ahead and put it in the chat. What are you hearing? What would you say feels most like you? Just one or two. Just put it in the chat for me. What feels most aligned in that? Just put it in the chat and see what we come up with. Because there may be a couple that resonate with you. You are all of these, but some are stronger than others, which is essentially your internal value structure. So Darren is an expert searcher for sure. Yeah, loves to help people. I'm guessing, Darren, you love it when people say, oh, good job. You say, oh, well, where did I do a good job? What do you mean by that? Yeah, so it's very specific. They like, whereas a star is just like, just give me applause, just applaud me, make love me, make me feel good. Whereas a searcher wants specific. Expert spirit searcher, yeah, good. Anyone has a guess what my top would you say? See if you can take a guess at this one. Growth motivators. The problem with growth motivators, by the way, when you have these value structures, is whenever you're highly growth motivated, you can find yourself living too much in the future. You can be all about the future, where you're going, and not necessarily about the now and the doing. That can sometimes be a problem, grounding yourself. Friend, creator, searcher, spirit, searcher, expert, friend. Nice. I'll tell you what I am, if you didn't guess. So I'm number 1 searcher, number 2 spirit, and number 3 expert, number 4 creator. Some of you are like, oh, I knew it. I knew that was him. Sometimes people complicate me because I can be quite balanced as well, because I talk about money and I like to take charge. So director, I have all of these, but my top 4 are those ones that I listed. Now, how does this really relate to self-sabotage? Now, I'm sure you're probably getting that if you have certain value structures, then what you might find is that, as I just alluded to, if you're high growth orientated, you might find it hard to be more grounded in the present moment and doing the things now. If you are all about the builder, all about the money, it might become sometimes about, I don't care about who I trample all over. If you're a high expert, you might spend all of your time learning, but never actually doing, which, as we know in business, is a really, really important thing to be able to execute on. So there are pros and cons to every single one of these. There's no right or wrong. It's not about getting it perfect. It's about just understanding and bringing to awareness what you are. So I'm going to do a little exercise here in a moment. I'll play some music and we'll go through these columns. But I want you to identify what are the top things you do to self-sabotage yourself. And this is an area, any area of life here. So to give you an example, first of all, we need to identify what is the I'm sure that's pronounced saboteur, right? Saboteur, sabogata, right? So what's the thing you do or don't do that's sabotaging action or inaction? So what's the thing that you do or don't do that is the sabotaging action or inaction? And you can write this down if you want to follow along with this. Again, like I said, I'm going to demonstrate. I'm going to give you some time to complete this. So for example, eating junk. If I'm eating junk food all of the time, I'm probably sabotaging my health on some level. Now, with that, I must have some associated value. So I must value something specifically to be doing that. Otherwise, I wouldn't make the decision to do it. So in this case, that's it. Convenience or flavor, right? So I must be valuing convenience or flavor. So depending on how good it is, the person cooking it, but if you are eating junk food, you probably love the sugar rush that you get from it. You may be like, hey, it's got all of these chemical concoctions that make you feel amazing temporarily, but then you bloody crash. So what is the associated value? And I'll go through a few of these so you can see this in action as well. Not saving. If saving is a thing that's important to you, you must be, if you're spending all your money left, right, and center, it's certainly not saving that you value. It's certainly not investing in your future that you value, or comfort. you're probably valuing poverty or comfort, or you are valuing poverty and comfort by not saving. Then we have not making calls. So if you know that you need to make certain calls, then again, you probably value comfort. If you're not putting the ads out there, if you're not putting ads out there, the associated value could be comfort. It could be security, some level of security, things that you're valuing. Here's another one, drinking. You might drink to escape or do drugs, or some people watch porn or shop or buy stuff. Some people might say, okay, well, I want to do this thing. I want to get in shape. I want to escape. I want to get in shape, but then I'm drinking all the time and eating junk food. Well, you have to be valuing something other than health in order to do that. So some people drink to escapism, to avoid. Remember, I said that there are those payoffs further up. So there must be for it. Is this making sense? If you've got a question, raise your hand. Oh, I can't see everyone right now. Is this good? Just give us a thumbs up so I can see this is landing with everyone. Okay, good. So with that in mind, if we know that we are valuing something else unconsciously and doing this behavior, remember, it's not self-sabotage. You're not doing it intentionally. This is unconscious in your mind. Then what we need to do is shift that. And we need to shift it to consciously know what we should be focusing on. So here's the question. Go to this one last, and then we'll come to this one. No, actually, this one. What action must you do or stop doing to get your goals? So if you have a specific goal, what action must you do or stop doing to get your goals? And this can be examples like, if I've been eating junk, then I simply need to eat clean. If I'm not saving, I need to set up some automated savings. That's one of the best things to help you with investments, by the way. Make it automatic. Take the thinking power out of it. For example, I have investments that go into Binance every month for cryptocurrency. It just buys cryptocurrency every single month, and I automate it because I know what will happen. I know that there'll be months where I get caught up in my stuff, caught up in my work, and then I don't save. So I must be valuing something else in order to do that. So I'm doing this from a place of intention, and I'm setting myself up for success. Making calls. If you're not making calls, make calls. If you're drinking, just be sober. Fully intend to be sober, right? And it all sounds very easy. So what is the associated value? What must you value in order to achieve your goals? So what's the value you need to achieve in order to achieve your goals? So in this example, health, wealth, growth, finances, clarity of mind. Good. So now what we're going to do is I'm just going to see if I can play a little music here, and we'll do a little timer, and then we're not going to do any running or jumping up and down. It's going to be very intentional, so you can go through this exercise. I'm going to go through these one column at a time. So list all the 5 ways in which you sabotage for the action you take or what you don't take. That's where we'll start. Some of you may have already started doing that process, which is fab. Then we're going to go to the next column and the next one and the next one. Has anyone got any questions? We'll do a minute on each. I'll put some music on so that we can concentrate. Has anyone got any questions about this? Or is it all clear? Just give us a little thumbs up. Awesome. Brilliant. I'm doing something right. It's amazing. Making this shirt, by the way, on the spot. So let's do 1 minute then. Let's go to, what do we fancy? Fancy. So just go ahead and write down the way in which you are sabotaging. Summer. Let's go with this one. Oh, I forgot my speakers aren't working. See, if I was attached to perfection and valuing perfection, this probably wouldn't go that well. right, we'll go 1 minute. Can you hear that music? Yeah.
Jay, can you put back the questions for us?
I can. Good. Just wrapping up the first column. Moving to the next one. What must you be valuing in order to do or not do that thing? Wrapping up the second column and moving to number 3. What should I do? What action must you do or stop doing to get to your goals? If you're not getting an answer, ask it in a different way, in a different voice, maybe be a bit more forceful and force your mind to give you the answer. Maybe put a Mickey Mouse sound on the question. You'll get a different response. I'd love to hear Tim's version of it. And wrapping up that one and coming to the last column. Good. 20. And just wrapping up there. Good. Stop that. Okay. Good. Are we all finished? Let me just see what you got from that exercise. I'd love to just take a couple of shares. A couple of people want to share what they discovered for themselves just through that exercise. Just raise your hand if you want to share. Be brave. Darren, go ahead.
Yeah, so my thing that I do or don't do is I struggle to, I'm not a completer finisher. If you look at sort of Myers-Briggs or whatever, whichever the personality type is, I'm not someone who's ever been very good at, I have lots of good ideas, or at least I think I do. And then I just never seem to finish them off properly. And then I go on to the next thing. I think over the last few months, I've actually got better at that. I feel like I'm actually sticking to something now. But it definitely, there's a sense of always wanting something new and shiny and innovative and, exciting. And then I get bored really easily. And so I think that's probably my you know, my main saboteur is just just not completing stuff, and always valuing the next thing as opposed to kind of just valuing the thing that you're doing at the time. So that's definitely a change that I'm consciously trying to make at the moment, which is just to say, this is what I'm doing. This is the course I'm doing. You know, I've done the 90 days. I've got the video in every day. You know, I didn't miss a day. Those sorts of things, actually, I did that, and that actually feels quite good.
Yeah, awesome. Congratulations. And thanks for sharing. So what I'm hearing is you valued fun, you valued new, interesting over actually what is mundane, right? So, but clearly you have the capacity, would you agree, to actually complete and follow through on something?
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Brilliant. Thanks, Darren. Who else we got? Who else would like to share? Yes, go ahead, Tim. You're muted.
Sorry, sabotaging myself again. I just recognize what a short-term emotional memory that I have, because I'm thinking, well, I've just done my webinar, so I'm fine, I'm good. But if I wind the clock back a couple of days, I couldn't do my webinar. And so my saboteur is limiting belief. And I think what that's about is a false comfort, because if I tell everyone I can't do it, and if I fail, it's all right, because they'll be nice to me.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, the truth is I can do it. Yeah, so the thing that struck me was just how short term. I've forgotten all the pain. I just crack on with the next thing now.
Yeah, it's always the way. Cheers for sharing that, Tim. And it's like, it's about like leaning into the resistance, right? And it's there. Like you can either fight it or you can find a way around it. Like if you've ever heard me talk about the law of requisite variety, where you flex, where you find a different way, a bit like what Darren's saying, like we all have the capacity to go through the resistance, find another way, to follow through, to complete. It's just that sometimes unconsciously we are playing a different game to what we are saying we want consciously. So in your mind, you're like, you know, I really want to do this thing. I really want it. But then on another level, your mind is going, no, you don't. We're not doing that. That's not important to us. Who do you think you are? Have a day off. I'm going to throw you this emotion or this resistance in to stop you from doing it, because it's really not what I want to do. So you're always going to do the behavior. You're always going to play the game that essentially your mind is actually winning. Does that make sense? So can you now see, when you look at that chart that you all just completed, can you see, can you say or see you're now self-sabotage, that you aren't self-sabotaging, you're just operating out of the values that are unconsciously important to you? Can you see that? I worked with a client the other day, and he shared with me about one of his biggest challenges is in his relationship. Well, his top motivator is freedom. So he's a high spirit. Now, if you're in a relationship and you have a really strong motivator, a really strong value around freedom, if you have the perception, and that's the key word, the perception that to be in a relationship means you are trapped, you get stuck, that they're going to tie you down, how likely are you to want to be in that relationship or in any relationship? You don't want to run away. You don't want to do something different. And so when we understand this, when we understand the values that are ultimately driving us, we can then make a conscious decision to shift them to the order they need to be. Now, in my Unstoppable Entrepreneur Program, we take people through an exercise to understand on a deeper level what are their top values, what's like the framework, what they're operating out of. And then what we do is we link them to their goals. So that they say, I want this goal, but how does it connect with their values? How does it meet their needs and values? So what we do is we connect the two together so that they have the emotional clout to achieve the goal, and there's alignment there. So it's almost like a check, a congruency check with both parts of the mind, the conscious and the unconscious, to make sure it is truly aligned. Now, when we make our values conscious, when we say, okay, well, I've been valuing this over that, then we can then look at it and go, okay, so what do I need to be valuing in order to actually create this result that I say I want to create? How can I use this existing value? What are the opportunities? Because again, I said, there's no right or wrong, there's no good or bad, but what order do my values need to be in order to create this specific result? And by operating from a place of intention, like if I was speaking to Darren and Darren said to me, you know what, Jay, 2022, I really want to be someone who follows through. Okay, what do I need to value in order to be someone who follows through? And then it's about, okay, so if I want to be someone who follows through, I need to then put a structure or a framework in place to allow that to be the case. So I might then say, okay, instead of me being the person that's always following through, I'm going to make sure we create results this year. So I'm going to hire people who are great at what I'm not great at doing or don't enjoy doing, and I'm going to get them to do those tasks so I can focus on my sweet spot, which might be vision. It could be growing the business in some way, creating content. So what you then do is you start to align your business to what your values and what your skill strengths are from a place of intention. That's not to say that you can't be someone that follows through. It just might be sometimes more difficult or more challenging for you to do it. The only difference is now we are now operating out of a place of conscious. You're not just going through life going, why am I self-sabotaging? Why am I getting in my own way? We're bringing everything to light. We're bringing awareness to it. So ultimately, you can come from a place of intention. Does that make sense? Because every day you operate out of a place of intention. It's how you choose what you had for breakfast this morning. Everyone here has a choice. You're not a tree. You're not stuck. You can move. You can just make a choice and do something different. And the only thing that would keep you stuck is the story, the justification, the reason that you're telling yourself. Remember, anytime you start saying because or but, you're about to talk shit. And you're about to talk yourself out of achieving the result that you really want. So now what we'll do, just to wrap up this for you, let me just share this again. So what we need to do is rank what your top values need to be in order to achieve or get your goals. So what are your top 5 values? What do they need to be in order to get your goals? So just go ahead and put in 1 to 5. What are the values? God, I've had too much talking. Write your values from the above in order of importance. So what do they need to be? What's the most important? If you're going to achieve your ultimate goal, what do you need to value most? If you're taking a big step, courage might be in there. You might need to value uncertainty. You might need to value growth. If you've heard any of Tony Robbins' stuff, he talks about if you want to live a miserable life, have the need for certainty and significance. Because if you value certainty all the time above all else, your life's probably going to be pretty boring because you're never going to take any risks if you have high certainty. If you value significance, that's the need to feel like you matter, important all the time. I want approval and never want to be rejected. I just want to be liked by everyone. You might be a people pleaser and never be able to say no. Whereas Tony Robbins says that the key to living is to operate out of a place of growth and contribution. When you give beyond yourself and you're constantly growing, which comes with uncertainty and pain, as with any piece of growth, then you're going to be able to create the results that you really want. So just give me a thumbs up once you have your top 5 values in the order of importance, and then we'll move to the next action step. Check on. If you need me to change back screen, you can. Okay. Good. Good. So what is one thing you can do today that demonstrates the value listed on the left? So I feel sorry for those who put courage, because you're probably going to need to take an action step that puts you way out of your comfort zone. So what's one thing you can do today that demonstrates the value listed to the left? Just remember, you can always intend to create a new action through a new choice. You can write something down there and I could say to you, okay, do it now. If that response, that action was, okay, make a phone call to 10 leads. I could put you on the phone now and say, okay, let's do it now then. And you might come up with a load of resistance, a load of reasons, a load of justifications, but that will be the stuff that gets in the way. So you need to be able to acknowledge that, see it, and then go over it and go, okay, I'm just going to do it, Jay. I'll dial the number, I'll ring the people. But people we're our own slippery snakes. We will try and slither our way out of anything that makes us feel too uncomfortable, that goes against our values. And we'll do that with reasons, justifications, excuses, etc. Good. Have we got some actionable items? I want to take a couple of shares here. So who's got a value and an actionable item they are happy to share? Just raise your hand. See if we can get someone new. Come on, Steph. Let's have you out here.
So I've got serve, see a patient, which I will be later on.
Yeah.
Earn money for it, which I'm going to get paid for.
Yeah.
Growth, listen to a podcast, which I'll probably do whilst I'm cooking dinner. Fulfillment, gratitude, I do that all day long. And joy, find something to laugh at today.
Beautiful, beautiful. And do these take you closer towards your goals?
Yeah, that's a good life.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Good. I mean, as long as it's taking you closer towards your goals, that's awesome. Just nuts the step. I love it. Good. Anyone else got a share? You'd like to come up here and share? Come on, be brave. Take a risk. If courage is your thing, this is the time.
Okay.
Annika.
I put down freedom as number one. And I can decide how I spend my day and the rest of the day.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Beautiful.
And energy is my number two. And since I'm sick, I have a cold, I will take another yoga or meditation pause tonight.
Yep. Love it.
And having fun is my third. And I think maybe I can have just a quick, just dance session with my husband and small boy child.
I love that. I mean, are you not having fun here? Surely you're like, hey, I'm already tick. I'm having fun here.
Yeah. And growth is my fourth. And that just listening to you, Jay, your masterclass, and earlier today as well. That's
amazing.
Making me grow. And teamwork is the fifth. So cooking dinner tonight with my husband and my 2-year-old. We can do it together. That's
love it.
Wow.
Love it. Beautiful. And all of those things that you just mentioned there, are those things you typically do anyway, or are they new things that you just intended on doing differently today because of this exercise?
I guess one of my sabotages is lack of self-care and on putting myself first and my needs and my interests and wants. So that's by doing it like this, I prioritize better.
Yeah, beautiful. Love that. Great shares. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So John DeMartini, he's got a great book called The Values Factor. Highly recommend reading it. And it's really, it'll talk to a lot of this stuff that I'm talking about here. And he says that every decision you make is based on what you believe will give you the greatest advantage over disadvantage, greatest reward over risk to your highest values. Essentially, he's saying the thing that's going to give you the most pleasure. People often talk about motivation. Motivation comes from aligning with what you want. And the only way you can align with what you want is if you know what's important to you. If you know the values that are important to you on an emotional and conscious level, then you're going to be able to align your life to meet those specific values, and so create your vision of what you want a hell of a lot easier. Does that make sense? Yeah, beautiful. So why it happens, you feel unworthy of your goals, you're currently doing or have done in the past, unethical things in your life or business that you feel guilty for. So why you self-sabotage, this could be some of the reasons. You feel unworthy of your goals, or it's because you're currently doing or not done doing what you're meant to be doing, or you've done unethical things in the past. In other words, one of the big things we always say is, whenever you make it wrong or bad, that can lead to guilt. A great example of this is taking time off. Some people in business in particular feel bad for taking time off because they know they have a to-do list as long as their arm. So they self-sabotage, or what we perceive to be self-sabotage, other areas of their life. So instead of actually setting up an agreement with themselves and their family that it's okay to take time off, then what happens is they find themselves trying to sneak in work in between because they feel guilty and they don't want to feel like guilt. So instead, they try and sneak in the work, or that creates an argument with their partner, or they're not fully present with their kids because they're thinking about work. So they find a way to mess up some kind of area of their life or cause an argument. We're always causing our own problems all of the time. And there's never been a time in your life where you haven't had a problem. If you feel unworthy of your goals, you will find a way to stop yourself. And here, like in my program, we normally do something called clearing down charges. But to give you an example of some of the charges people might have, you might have resentment, a person who told you what you should value and how you should operate. So is there a person in your life who told you should value something specifically? You might have frustration that you keep self-sabotaging yourself. You might have fear and anxiety that I'm never going to change. I'm never not going to stop following through. Does that make sense? I'm never going to follow through. Fear you're never going to follow through. Fear of having responsibility, fear of having power, fear of mishandling power if you're successful, mishandling responsibility. There's a bunch of these here, but you can see here, the guilt and shame far outweighs. So if you are somebody who doesn't follow through, you need to find a way to forgive yourself. Some kind of forgiveness letter might be a good step. But if you feel like you're doing stuff wrong all the time, you're going to experience guilt and shame. And there's loads of them here, as you can see. So what I'd like to do now, because we're at the top of the hour, is there any questions on this or anywhere I can support you with anything that you've learned today? Let's see what Alan's saying. No problem, Alan. That's fine. Good. Good. Annika, what's your big takeaway from today?
I guess I have to let go of guilt and prioritize myself. I know that, but it's a good reminder.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. Have you found this valuable?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good. Good. Well, with that in mind, I'm going to wrap it up and just say a big thank you for everyone who come on. You've got this exercise now, so you can go and do it. If you find yourself not doing the thing or self-sabotaging, intentionally trying to destroy your life, then you can go through this exercise and you can just ask yourself that question. What must I be valuing right now in order to be doing this? And it's not about making it wrong. It's really about saying to yourself, okay, what are the opportunities for me to meet my need for this value while still creating the result that I really want? Yeah. And this is why coaching is often powerful, because when we're operating from a place of fear, and that's why I list those charges, when we're operating from a place of fear, we can't always see the possibility, or some lens like a guilt lens or a shame lens or frustration or resentment. It's very difficult to see the wood through the trees, as we like to say. So with that in mind, I hope you've enjoyed this one, and thanks for coming. I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.